We're all in control until we're not. The real question isn't whether you're in control, it's for how long. This is where I was supposed to die, in the water right by that boulder. The sun was setting. The waves, they started getting bigger. They started getting bigger. They started getting bigger. And so I started swimming into shore. And as I did that, the tide started pulling me out to sea. The harder I swam, the farther back I got. The harder I swam, the farther back I got. With only a few minutes of energy left, I did something most people don't do. I stopped. I took a breath. I looked around and tried to figure out what was going on. And that is why I survived a situation where 90% of beach deaths occur. I slowly thought about my first grade swim teacher, and she said something about these things called riptides. What happens in a normal tide is that the breakers go into shore, and then they go back out to sea. But in a riptide, what happens is that they collide with each other, and there's a huge channel of water going back. I looked around, and that was exactly what was going on for me. So I had a few moments to make a choice. I could swim in like I always had, or I could try something different. With a little bit of energy I had left, I waded across the shore instead of into it. A few moments later, the tide shifted and it started floating me in to the land. I crawled up the beach, exhausted. I went to the igloo cooler, got myself a nice cold beer. And I watched the sunset. And I asked a question. It's the question that's driven almost everything I've done for the last 25 years. What the hell just happened? How did a small shift in mindset move my life from probably about 60 seconds to hopefully another 60 years? And how did the tide that was about to kill me turn around and save my life? That's when I started thinking about what experts have come to call the float window. It turns out that in a situation like that, it doesn't really matter if you're in control. What matters is how long you can stay afloat. And there are a couple of steps. The first is to think about what is going on inside of you. Can I calm myself? Can I breathe? Am I safe? For how long? And then to think about what's going on. What do we know about the situation and what has changed? After you understand those two things, the next step is to start to take action. Where can you buy time and where can you buy options? Because the more time you have, the longer your float window is, the more control you have over the situation. In life, I think that we're taught to run as fast as we can toward the finish line. And in a swimming pool, that is how you win. But in a riptide, that is exactly how you die. Because in a riptide, we all lose control. We're hearing a lot of amazing things here today. What can you take away? What mindsets, what lessons, what assets will help you buy time when the next riptide hits? Because riptides happen in the ocean, but I think they also happen in your life. They happen in your job. They happen in your family. Perhaps a new child has just been born, or perhaps a parent has just died. Maybe you just got a new job. Maybe you lost yours. Maybe you've just been declared free of cancer. Maybe you've just been diagnosed. Riptides aren't a part of life. They are life. These are things we cannot avoid, and it is typically the result of not one wave knocking us over, but a couple of these things hitting us at the same time. So, how do we regain control if we're in a riptide? We can certainly try and float longer, but the first thing to understand is that you are in a riptide. It's very hard to regain control until you know that you've lost it. There are a few common riptides that we experience, all of us experience in life. The spin cycle. You know this one. It starts like this, and then it ends up like this. Yeah, and then this happens. You aren't able to get out of the washing machine unless you know you're in it. So where in your life are you running harder, working harder, going faster, and yet not getting anywhere? The next riptide looks something like this. In Spain, these guys like to travel to go and get chased by bulls, to run for their lives. Panic propulsion is a bad hobby for people like me, maybe people like you. For some people, running from fear is a habit. Where are you running away from danger? Where are people you love running away from danger? And where could you be running toward opportunity? We all suffer from this one, the success trap. Where are you doing what has worked instead of what will work? At the end of the day, only you own your future. So how will you buy time? How will you create options when the next rogue wave hits? We're obsessed with control, but that is the wrong goal. My life went from maybe 60 seconds to hopefully another 60 years because I floated instead of fought. And I've been thinking about that day for about half my life now. And I've come to a conclusion about what happened. In that moment, the sea didn't change. I did. With that first breath. Thank you very much.